Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Christensen. Welcome to Horror 101 with Dr. AC, and this is Scare-A-Thon 2023, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Phil Tippett's stop-motion epic, 30 years in the making, Mad God. And holy mackerel, I'm calling in the big guns on this one because this is a big gun type of movie. Please welcome to the show Lucy Ball,
hey there,
Jess Ader, and Grant Kuchan. And let us talk about Mad God 2022. Holy Moses. I mean, I was warned that this was going to be a head trip, but it's so incredible. It is just, you're watching just madness spill out onto the screen, but you're also watching a genius. And, you know, the title says it all. Like, Phil Tippett is a god, but he's insane. So hence Mad God.
Oh, totally. I've always told people that it's like watching a painting that moves around for you, you know, like, because there's a story it's telling, but it's more about looking at the crazy world that Phil Tippett has made. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that the fact that he allowed himself the time to go ahead and do it in a very non-traditional sort of narrative kind of way. It's almost like an extended poem. It's, if you sit there and try to say, okay, what was it about? Well, then it's sort of like, well, here, let me read the poem to you all over again. You know what I mean? The way that he took his time and the way he structured everything, it's just fascinating. Yeah.
Jess?
That was sort of my thought too. It actually made me think of liquid television back in the late 80s, early 90s, like an extended cut of that.
Mm-hmm.
And also the early, like, David Lynch painting stuff like The Alphabet. I don't know if you've ever seen any of that stuff, but similar, where it's just a visual art project. And it was, I read a little bit about it, and I'm sure AC you'll fill us in, but it was cool to see, maybe not, but it was cool to see them, or him rather, chunk that all together in a one long, somewhat chaotic thing, but I don't think that's the point. It's more of a, like you were saying, sorry, what is the person's name in the lower? Lucy Ball.
That's Lucy Ball.
Okay, Lucy, sorry. I didn't want to be rude.
No, it's okay. I appreciate the candor.
Yeah, to your point, a moving painting for sure, with a lot of, goop.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead, Lucy.
I was just gonna say, it's also like a oh, my arm fell. It's like a symphony of stop motion. Like, they pull out every trick and they really pull out all the stops for every trick. It's like the dude is demonstrating that he's been the guy for the past like 50 years, and nobody's going to do it like that. It's wonderful.
And what's amazing too is that since it took him 30 years to make it, because he started with traditional equipment and then ended with digital. So you literally see the evolution of stop motion over these past 30 years through one film, which is just fascinating.
Whoa, I didn't think about that, but you're so right. And I love the it's not it is the very first thing where they're doing the Tower of Babel situation, and they do the what do they call it, the cloud tank, where they bring the wrath of God down on that. It's really sweet.
And for people who don't know who Phil Tippett is, Phil Tippett, he was most famous for, he was doing his kind of go motion dinosaurs, and he became the first dinosaur director or something like that for Jurassic Park. But he did Starship Troopers, he did RoboCop, he's been around forever. And
he did Empire Strikes Back too.
Empire Strikes Back. I mean, he's just, you look at that guy's resume and it's just incredible. But also, he was working on this movie from the early 90s and progressing all the way through to now. And it just got released last year, and it's streaming on Shudder, and it's breathtaking. It reminded me, Jess, you might relate to this. In Wisconsin, there is an exhibit called House on the Rock, and House on the Rock is filled. It's built by this kind of mad genius, Alex Jordan, And it's just like this house that's insane. It has so many different rooms in it. And it's just like a room full of, armchairs. And here's like a carousel with all the figures on the ceiling. And it's like being in the mind of a mentally ill person. But then you back up and you go, wait, is he mentally ill or does he know what he's doing? And the answer is he knew what he was doing. He's like, if I put enough stuff in a room, it becomes art. If I and it's extraordinary walking around that. And that's kind of how I felt watching this. It's like Phil Tippett is not trying to make this easy for anybody. He is really answering his own muse, and it's extraordinary because it's unlike anything you've ever seen. Even though it's like David Lynch, even though it's not the same at all.
I also get a kick of thinking about Phil Tippett working with Spielberg and doing these big budget productions that are kind of safe and being like, these dudes don't understand. I'm going to go work on the real shit. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's very punk rock because he really doesn't care. We were talking backstage about like the idea of there being a narrative. It's like, yeah, there's a story, but you have to really work for it. And it's so easy to still appreciate what a masterpiece you're looking at, even if you don't understand the narrative.
Yeah, it's one of those that reminds me of, and I'm probably going to date myself here with this, it reminds me of the midnight movies where, in college, everybody would show up all sort of smelling like they've been sitting in the VW microbus on the way over a little bit longer than they should have. And then at the end of the film, having the ushers have to come through and be like, no, it's over. You can leave now, because they're stuck in the seats going, are you kidding me? What did I just see? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does have that head movie feel about it for sure.
Well, I think somebody was saying backstage that like it's like a movie that it's almost kind of like 2001, which it absolutely references. It's kind of like 2001 in that it's a movie that like kind of begs to be seen under the influence. Although if you saw it under the influence, that might be it for you.
You would cease to be. I think you just out of existence after that.
Or you become it.
Whoa! Right. They made Mad God IRL. That's crazy. But I've got it playing in the background right now because it had been a while since I'd really seen it. And every time I look back at the screen, something new and horrible is happening. It's fantastic. Like right now, I'm watching a person digging through coins and viscera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And to go on to that narrative point, like, sure, there's a narrative, but it's not so much about what's happening and more about what it means. Oh, it's art.
And to be fair, if you're making a movie for that amount of time, even if he might have had some initial ideas, I'm sure they changed drastically. And it's like all really experimentation, even though you know what you're doing, what it ends up being is something obviously totally different. I was thinking with all of this stop motion type of stuff, I always think of just the amount of time it took to light all those miniatures after sculpting them. Like it's insane how dynamic some of the lighting was throughout, and obviously with that steampunky kind of lighting too. So there's a lot of like high changes throughout. But I did notice the year changes in that the back screen at times was like just a projection, or it almost looked like the days of like blue screen, pre-green.
Yeah.
But it looked really cool, and it proved that practical effects still, to me, are the best.
Oh, totally. That cloud box scene in the beginning, like I'd forgotten how cool that was, and people don't do that anymore. You just sort of CG some rolling clouds in there and have it be a day.
Yeah, maybe like Michel Gondry or something would do that, but in a much cleaner.
Yeah. But you talked about how long it must have taken to light those miniatures, and just the sheer number of miniatures. Like every set piece is like piles of puppet bodies on top of puppet bodies on top of weird felt point sculptures, and it's just like the the scope. That's the word I'm looking for. The scope is outrageous.
Well, and how it's like there is just a little art piece everywhere you look, and there's so many, like I saw the Cyclops from Seven Voyages of Sinbad at some point. I saw the robot from Lost in Space. And it's like just all these like kind of pop culture artifacts are thrown in there as well. And you're like, what have you even? And okay, so the movie as it is starts off with this Tower of Babel opening that we referenced, and then it has the lines from Leviticus, from the Bible, talking about like what a vengeful God and what all the awful things he's going to do to you should you treat him wrong.
Yeah, everybody's favorite book.
and then we see a diving bell dropping down. You're like, where is this coming from? Because this, it's just dropping for miles and miles and miles and miles. And, like they're shooting at it and it escapes all of that and it gets down, and out comes a helmeted figure who is named the Assassin. And what we see from the Assassin is that he is carrying a suitcase full of dynamite, and he's going to a preordained spot where he's planning to detonate the dynamite. And along the way, he sees all of these acts, just these horrific acts, and all these beings that are kind of being created out of these molds, and it's like they're created to be destroyed. And it's like, you need to create this many because like 70% of them ain't even going to make it off the dock here.
Mm-hmm.
But couldn't you say that about all of humanity?
I could.
You say it about us all.
And that's the thing. Like, I feel like there is some, it's not just spectacle, there is layers. This is a film with a philosophy, and that's kind of incredible as well. It's got such an artistic vision, and that's why, it's called Phil Tippett's Mad God, because this is Phil Tippett. He's just laying it out there.
Yeah. And if you can find it on YouTube, I want to say like 11, 12 years ago, that Adam Savage's Tested went to check out Phil Tippett filming this. Because I guess, awesome. Yeah, what ended up happening is like he'd done the early stuff, he put it away for forever. And then they were digitizing all of his old stuff, and some of his assistants were like, wait, what is this? And they ended up volunteering to sort of help him finish this Mad Vision. So then he did a Kickstarter, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger as he went along. Yeah. But they were in his studio, and just to see, the amount of stuff that he has on every surface, just to inspire him to go in and put something on every surface. And the fact that 11 years ago, they were like knee deep in like, well, maybe we'll make this one chapter. Maybe we'll go ahead and do this and another chapter. Maybe it'll be a whole series. And it still took them that long to just get it to the point where we're able to see it. Now it's just amazing. Yeah,
I have to imagine people came and left throughout the entire time.
People died during the making of this.
Speaking of which, I spilled an entire glass of water right before this meeting started, which I thought was quite appropriate. Yeah. There was just liquid everywhere, including in the part of one of the sockets. Which
oh no,
I haven't been shocked quite yet, but
I'm glad. Hang in there.
Okay. Yeah, well, the night is still young, baby. The night is still young.
I just hope a bunch of feces like Goop doesn't.
Yeah, no Goop, please, no Goop.
My wife happened to be walking through at that moment when you get the shot of everybody like kind of sitting on the chairs and just evacuating their bowels, and then it going down and right into somebody's mouth, and you're like, oh yeah, there we go.
honey, I swear it's art. I promise.
Well, what was interesting too about that is there were points where like the scale was very different. Like these are the parents in Muppet Babies or whatever. They're much larger, but that kind of added to the whole psychedelic trip of all of it, where it felt like almost like a video game or something too, where you didn't really have enough time to take in what corridor or tracking shot where it was going. It just kept moving along and along.
I would love a coffee table book of just all the different sets and little pieces like that, because you really can't fully drink it in without pausing the movie every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, something you said, Grant, is like the idea. I mean, there's so many sets, and I'm kind of like, well, what does this guy's workshop look like? It must look like that world, because there's all the different venues.
Well, and the crazy part too is that like a lot of the pieces that he ended up making for this, he made out of foam latex, and foam latex doesn't keep.
No.
You know what I mean? So like they would like slowly be disintegrating. Like he picked up the
he's like, I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like he picked up the monkey from the scene where the monkey is getting like tortured.
That's terrible.
And the monkey was just completely like just dissolving, like with the foam latex, and the number of assassins that they had to make and remake and remake and remake and make look exactly over, because having that for 30 years,
Yeah, that was something I said last night to my girlfriend. Is I have to imagine that it really smelled terrible. Because I remember reading Bruce Campbell's book where he was talking about the blood in Evil Dead 1 and 2 and how they put some creamer in it.
Oh,
so who knows what type of thing he was playing with. There were points where it was like, I think this looks like gelatin. It's very hard to read, but it seems, like a weird, at least certainly very chemically scented throughout. And I also was like, this definitely was a male. Dude. Like teenage dream, and it's beautiful. There's certain ways he could use his time.
Yeah, I think of working as an intern in Phil Tippett's shop, and you go in, and he comes in all angry one day. He's like, "Wait, what happened to this thing that was right here?" And you're like, "Oh, the coffee cup. I thought that needed to be washed. I'm sorry." He's like, "No, you fool! You ruined it."
Yeah, you need to liquefy the cup.
My wife was also, she's kind of like, that can't have all been stop motion. That can't have been. I'm like, oh, it kind of is. She's like, that's stupid. Nobody should spend that much time. Like, she's like just moving it like one bit at a time. Like, yeah, that's how it works. And she's like, no, that's just dumb. You shouldn't do that. You should not do that with your life.
Well, I was also thinking this is probably a single. At least he was single throughout some of it.
Right?
Oh, yeah. He's married to the game, I think.
That's true. I would imagine he did the robot stuff in RoboCop like that.
Yeah, good.
Well, he's got such a, what's the way? Like a specific animation style.
Yeah.
That it has this like weird motion blur, sort of hokey jerky, like a blend of like Tim Burton and Harryhausen stop motion in this really cool, weird way. There's actually a video on TikTok of some kid like in his bedroom mimicking different stop motion animation styles with like video effects. And I hadn't thought of it until watching him do Phil Tippett on there. And yeah, it's got this weird like 9 Inch Nails music video quality about it. It's very cool.
Well, somebody said that like this is very reminiscent of a lot of Tool videos.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But they're like, is it a Tool video? It's like, no, I don't think it is.
But if you put
some
that
Tool underneath it,
like, yeah, this is friggin' awesome.
It also pulls a psycho on us in that, like, we're cruising along following a certain character, and then suddenly that character is not in the game anymore. And you're like,
where's the spoiler alert? Where's the spoiler alert?
I didn't say what character.
Okay.
Canceled.
Here, all right, look. Retro.
Wait,
Isn't the whole movie a character though?
Yeah, well, seriously though, I mean, there's so many characters you're just like, what the hell? And they're really, there's also just a degree of grossness throughout. Like, there's no doubt this is a horror film because it's horrifying. Like, there's there's just gunk and gore and waste and fluids and just this overall arching quality of nastiness and decay. And it's like, man, and I think it kind of, it's not just it. I don't know that mad God necessarily means angry God as much as it means a madman, a mad God. Like, this is a God that's lost his mind. And what do we think about our character up in the sky, our last man, who's played by Alex Cox, director of Sid and Nancy?
Oh, I do need to say before we move away, right as you were talking about the filth and the fluids and all of that, my movie over here was coming on the scene where the skinned demon women are, rubbing up on the Minotaur guy. So that just couldn't have been timed better.
Was it called The Filth and the Fluids?
I think so. That's going to be my first album. I tell you that much.
Well, what I honestly thought was sort of interesting is, there's sort of a grossness factor to it. But whenever there was like really human elements that were put out of place, like when we saw the human teeth, that was creepy. Like the various characters that had the human teeth, or with the baby talk or the baby crying. You know what I mean? That,
oh man,
that was just like, ooh. Like,
yeah, that definitely did go back to like Nine Inch Nails' early Marilyn Manson videos. There's
totally.
things and gums being pulled up.
All the dental accoutrement.
And very much like some of that post like crackle and stuff that kind of reminded me of that era. So are you talking the person with the like plague mask on?
No, the guy with the nails.
Oh, okay.
The live action guy, right?
Yeah, the one real person in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, the like older.
Yeah, that's Alex. That's Alex Cox, who directed Sid and Nancy and
just went
Walker.
Shot of him, and then
yeah,
you see him throw on a yarmulke, grab a rosary, and then with his crazy toenails, put some slippers on.
They were a little on yellow. I did think that.
He keeps them clean.
Well, yeah, he just got a manicured like right before shooting.
One other thing about the amount of time that it came out, I don't know if it could have come out in a different time, because it's like too gross to be like a Kino Lorber film. Right. Like, it's not Koyaanisqatsi, but it's, I don't know who would take it other than Shudder or streaming service. Sorry, I got a cat now.
Well, that's okay.
So yeah, I don't really know what other time that this could have come out, even if he had finished it in the 90s.
I think if he had made it in the 80s or 90s, it would have been
various parts on liquid television or something.
Yeah, it would have been on liquid television. It would have been when you put Antichrist Superstar into your computer. It would be in there. It would maybe be relegated to like a street trash kind of
like Adult Swim special premiere, I guess.
Yeah, or like a super cult thing that like 3 guys know about. You gotta go to the back room of the video store.
Well, that was like the what was it, the Spike and Mike's Animation Festival,
right? Yeah.
This would have like played right into that. So yeah,
it would have swept up at that festival, I think. Yeah,
and I was like going, in a just world, this should have been nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Film, because it's extraordinary. It's unlike anything anybody's ever done before. And it's unfortunate that I think it will remain a cult item. It's never going to reach like a wide audience. I'm glad that it's on Shudder and that people will be discovering it. I'm curious to hear how many people actually get all the way through it.
Well, that's also
uninitiated.
Well, that's eventually when Disney does the live action remake of it.
It's gonna have Josh Groban playing the assassin. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And then they're going to bring, for like the nostalgia bucks, they'll get Malcolm McDowell. It's going to be crazy. Ricky Rad is really going to squeeze every penny out of this thing.
Cool. All right. Well, it sounds like, hellfire is coming upon us. So it's probably a good cue for us to wrap up. Everybody, you should check out Mad God. It is streaming on Shudder, and it is a a feast for the senses that you'll probably want to throw up afterwards.
Yeah, get yourself some friggin' culture and check it out.
All right. Again, this is Scare-A-Thon 2023, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. The link to donate is below in the description, so please give mightily. And we'll be back again real soon. Until next time, keep searching, keep exploring, and keep sharing the scare.